I left bright and early this morning, head to the city, a little bit of snow and slush in the roads, but it was a chilly drive all the way.
Well, I had the furnace run out of oil last night.
That's not a good thing.
So I was here bleeding the lines. The oil guy knew there was a problem, an issue. He apparently apologized, said he was expecting to be here yesterday, but was so busy, so backed up that he figured he'd make it till today, but we didn't make it. So he was here bright and early, but I had to go bleed the lines. That's fun.
Yeah, well, look, it's that time of year. It's always a good time, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but it's a good time to watch your oil in your furnace, but it's also a good time to watch the gas gauge on your vehicles, and that might be a little comment to my wife Tracy, but her first time ever running out of gas, so I can't pass an opportunity up to get a little dig in at my lovely wife, but she'll take it with a grace. I know that, but it's always a good time. You never want to be stuck on the side of the road in the cold weather, but you also never want to be stuck at home in the cold weather either. But.
And just one last comment on the cold weather. You probably heard about or heard my editorial yesterday talking about the cold and blaming you because you went out to Shuby Park last week and you scared Sam, and now we got to put up with it for 6 more weeks.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to take the blame. Unfortunately, I don't know how much weight that I put into the old folk tale, but it's always a good tradition in Nova Scotia, Shubenacadie Sam.
Indeed. Now, we've got some serious stuff to talk about. Your boss is away, the Premier. He's in Washington along with all the other premiers, the Council of the Federation, they call it. The Prime Minister's in Europe. He's dealing with some other issues. Maybe not a bad thing to have the Prime Minister not with them in Washington, because it appears that his name is mud before Mr. Trump. I'm not sure that any of us will fare any better with the dictator president or not, but getting any feedback from the Premier about the reception they're getting while in Washington?
No feedback yet. Typically Wednesday's a caucus day, but with the House starting to sit on Friday, our caucus is Thursday, so we'll probably get some sort of an update on Thursday at caucus. But what I would say is, look, this is the first time ever that every Canadian premier or territorial representative is in Washington. First time ever. Put that in perspective, Bill. For any reason at all. So this is a very important issue, and we heard a couple weeks ago there was going to be last week, I guess, there was going to be a 30-day grace, and then we hear about aluminum and steel tariffs 2 days ago, and now this morning driving to Halifax, you hear in the news that the tariffs will come in March, and it's going to be double tax, it's going to be double tariffs. As we talked last week and a couple weeks ago, Bill, you just don't know what's going to come out of Washington right now. But we are clearly on a Team Canada approach here. Our premiers hand in hand with all the other Canadian premiers, and quite frankly, we're hearing from U.S. Elected officials, our colleagues that we would communicate back and forth, U.S. residents, U.S. companies, that they're not in favor of this. So I don't know where this is going to go, but we have a good representation down there, and there's also the executive team that's put together, and from Canada as well, and we have representatives from Nova Scotia on that as well to support the initiative. But we're going to do everything we can, and I wish this was one time that we did have the crystal ball that we could say what's going to happen, but I just don't think you can predict what's going to come out of Washington right now.
Well, I'm not surprised that there's so much feedback from the U.S. Because any thinking person would realize you can't add 25% cost to any product and say it's a good thing, that it's not going to hurt somebody somewhere. And we've already had the experience, especially with steel and aluminum, when Trump was in office the first time round, and he imposed that. I think it lasted a year, and the steel industry was hurt, and everybody told him it was wrong. Everybody told him it hurt, and he even began to feel it himself. So to turn around and do it again just tells you he couldn't care less. And all those people who keep starting to say, I wonder what he'll do next. You don't know, because he doesn't know. I mean, he just wakes up, sees something on Fox News, and makes a law. It's just as dumb as that. I think the golden opportunity here is, as you pointed out, the first time ever all the premiers and territorial leaders are united and together and working as one. And all we need to do is keep that up.
Oh, exactly. And we haven't strayed from that. I mean, there's also the conversation about interprovincial trade that you and I have had conversations about before. We're leaders in that fact, and we have other provinces and territories looking at Atlantic Canada to see how we've made the strides that we've made. There's still a lot of room to grow there, improvements to be made. Obviously, we know that, and but there's also an opportunity to put emphasis on products that are created right here in our own province and be able to support things. And it just gives another reason that you don't put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak.
You know, and we just talked with the mayor of Oxford moments ago on the agenda for tonight's meeting. They're going to talk about how the town, in fact, can support the effort of the premiers. And it's an issue being promoted by the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities, suggesting that all the towns and cities and municipal units should kind of work together with the premiers in getting this kind of Canadian front going. And if we can break down those interprovincial barriers and reopen or reemphasize the trade with Europe, we could get to a point where Mr. Trump would almost have to get on bended knee to come back to us. And it's not that we want that. It's not that we want revenge. But if you, like you said, you can't put all your eggs in that basket, especially with that kind of a leader. And we need to learn the lesson quickly and diversify and have alternate markets, because Canada is a very, very strong country. We take a back seat sometimes when we shouldn't. We have natural resources. We have unlimited water supply, like the world just envies us. You and I have talked about the power potential of the Bay of Fundy, of the wind, of the tidal energy, and so on. What we have, we've got in spades. And if we can just kind of corral our own jealousies and our own lust for power sometimes, if we could corral that and get it together, we'd be the envy of the world.
Yeah, no, to one of your points, Bill, every single company that I've talked about, too, every single elected official, no matter the color or stripe, and every business external of Nova Scotia that I've spoken to over the last 2 or 3 weeks, not one person wants to impose any retaliatory penalties. If we need to, we will. But what everybody wants to get to is the relationship that we've grown and fostered for over a century with our neighbors to the south. That's what people want, and that's what I'm hearing from the south and our counterparts. And my federal counterpart that's been to Washington, Minister Wilkinson, several times already, that's what he is hearing as well. This is not about a big retaliatory process for us. It's to get to a pathway to where what we had pre-January 20th, if you will, with the trade, and no worries, and a focus of how do we diversify as we can secure that, have the security of what we had in the past. But as many people have learned right now, you never know what's going to happen worldwide. So we need to diversify our markets, and the government has a role there to support business, and large and small. And the unfortunate light of this whole thing, there is a practice or an exercise that's going on in the background of how do we diversify things, how do we get more products into the European market, how do we get more products in the hands of Nova Scotians and Canadians that are made right here in our country.
Absolutely. And, we spend, frankly, way too much time talking about Trump, because that's exactly what he wants. He really isn't trying to rule or govern. He just wants attention. That's the nature of the man. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be negative, but I can't help but be negative. And we play right into his hand to respond to the threats and all the things he does. I mean, he's threatening decades, centuries of allies in Egypt and Jordan and Canada and you name it. Talking about taking over countries, taking over Canada, making it a state, taking over Greenland, taking back the I mean, just on and on and on. It's ludicrous. And yet here we are talking about it again. And now you mentioned the opening of the legislature. It opens on Friday. And there'll be the speech from the throne and some initial handshaking, glad handing, and so on. But I can't help but think that this dark shadow over our country is also, of course, over our province and will impact on the kinds of things that you might propose as your legislative package, because you might have to temper it to suit the United States or to suit Donald Trump. It's a real shame, but it's a reality, isn't it?
It is a reality, and I mean, we can control what we can control here in Nova Scotia, but the worldwide impacts of not just the U.S., but what's going on worldwide will impact any speech from the throne, and eventually in the week or two to come, the tabling of the spring budget for 25-26. But that's the nature of the beast, unfortunately, Bill. And maybe it's a darker cloud than normal, yes. But there's going to be a speech from the throne, and we're going to look at what we can prop Nova Scotia up with. We had a focus in our first mandate of healthcare. We haven't ignored that. There's still a huge focus on healthcare, and still moving the dial even further on that. You heard the premier say over the course of the last few weeks about we have natural resources here in Nova Scotia. We need to be able to capture them and investigate every single one of them to see what the potential is, because we don't know what's going to happen worldwide when we're looking at energy development. How much electricity can we expect to import to Nova Scotia while we're building these things? There's many conversations out there that are at the helm of every government across Canada right now. What do we have within our own province that we can start our own supply chains, if you will, and be able to support each other, each neighboring province? That's part of the diversification, and I obviously have not seen the speech from the throne. Even as ministers, we get little inklings of what might be in it, but we actually don't hear it from Lieutenant Governor and the Premier until the day that we sit down in the legislature. But I think it's pretty clear where the focus is going with our Premier and with our province, and quite frankly, it's sort of adjoining what every other province is doing right now in Canada.
Hey, it's interesting. You just mentioned something that kind of surprised me. I always assumed that the cabinet ministers, like yourself, would be feeding in from input from their departments respectively that would end up in the speech from the throne developed by the Premier's office. We know that the Lieutenant Governor reads the speech, but he doesn't prepare it.
Oh, obviously we do feed in our information, Bill. If I led you straight on that one, that wasn't the intent. We don't see the final package of what's going on there, and we don't even know what details from our department would actually be in there. We're asked for a list of achievements, a list of goals, and things that we're working on, and higher details on things that the Premier's office is looking for, and one-on-one conversations with the Premier. But the final document and sort of the tone of the speech, as ministers, for the most part, we wouldn't know until we actually sit down in the legislature tomorrow to hear this, or Friday, to hear the speech from the throne. But we may have an inkling of what's going to happen, but like I say, we really don't know. The Premier and the Lieutenant Governor are the ones that are actually at the helm of that.
Well, I hear it all this time, and I've been giving you all the credit, telling the whole world, everybody that would listen, say, just ask Tory. Tory, rather. He not only knows what's going on, he contributes to it. Speaking of that, I want to end on a laugh, and that's not the laugh. I want to end on an up note, talking about things more local, of course. And I asked you what might be going on, and you said winter carnivals. And boy, oh boy, talk about something that can lift your spirits again. I hadn't even thought about them, but yeah, you're right. They're popping up all over now, aren't they?
Yeah, no, there's the Heritage Day weekend coming up, and look, the first pancake breakfast is I believe Saturday morning at the arena in Spring Hill. It's a grad celebration to do with Chili Willy, and there's Heritage Day events taking place in Oxford, and different things going on in Parsgrove over the weekend. The events are starting to ramp back up. I don't know whether you noticed, Bill, but it's starting to be daylight a little earlier, and the sunlight staying out a little longer. So even though the cold temperatures are here, it's still winter, and it's time to celebrate our four seasons. This is one of the four seasons. There's lots to do in and around Nova Scotia, but the days are getting longer, so summer's coming pretty quick. I hope. But while the winter is here, there's tobogganing taking place. I even think there's a chili cook-off coming up at the arena in Spring Hill too that I may have to partake in. Tasting, obviously. You don't want my chili cook, but lots of activities go on while the winter time's still here, and get out and enjoy some of the weather. But I understand there's some weather coming in over the weekend too, so you obviously want to travel safe.
But here you are talking about pancakes. That goes with maple syrup, of course, and all the things going on. And you say you'll have to partake. Is it poor you? Just in your job, you're forced to go out and do all these things. Yeah, lucky you, I should say.
I will never pass up a pancake supper, pancake breakfast. I absolutely love maple syrup. And a little bit of a joke. I don't know whether anybody saw the meme about Vermont not shipping their maple syrup to Canada because of potential tariffs. Well, I think the joke is on there, because we have great maple syrup in Canada, and probably the best in the world, and we can share it with everyone else. But it was sort of the joke. But we have some great maple syrup in Cumberland County, and I know everybody knows that. I'll take an opportunity to partake any chance I get.
You got it, my friend. And, of course, the last word, of course, is that we've made the official announcement change that where you used to come on this program every Wednesday at 10, it's now going to be at 11, more precisely 11:03 by the time we do the updates and so on. So everybody can change their plan, change their calendars, and look for you from now on at 11. And we're just simply getting out of the way of your ongoing commitments of meeting with Treasury Board at 10.
No, absolutely, and that's appreciated, Bill. And as you say that, next week will be the sort of the first week update that we usually do from the legislature. When you and I speak while the legislature's in, it's usually a weekly wrap of what's going on in the legislature, how it'll impact Cumberland County, and looking forward to that next week, Bill.